Some people describe Canberra as boring, colourless. So I just thought I'd throw this slide up because I think Canberra in autumn looks incredibly beautiful and colourful. And so I just thought I'd start with that and dispel that myth about our city. I actually really like Canberra. As I said, I've been here as a mother, an employee of government, run my own business, now in the university sector. So a lot of people see my strengths as joining the dots across sectors and trying to get a more connected Canberra in that sense. I'm also director of something called Canberra Urban and Regional Future, set up by University of Canberra and the Australian National University. It's a platform to bring people together to discuss exactly these sorts of issues. What's happening in Canberra and what's happening in the region. And that's going from strength to strength. So have a look at our website if you get a chance. It's curf.com.au. That's the end of the advertisement, but probably sums up where I come from. Just so I won't go through all my background, but it is in the public sector, private sector, and now the university sector. And I've worked in practice for about 20 years and academic for about 10, which tells you how very old I am now. It's great to see students here today. Last night I took my postgraduate students of planning, and David Flannery was with me last night. We walked all around Civic, and the last part of it was to walk over City Hill. And if you've ever tried to walk from New Acton over City Hill and down those set of stairs that go nowhere next to the Assembly in the dark, it's quite challenging. And I took them through that pathway for a purpose, that we have some great precincts in Civic, but we need to connect those different precincts much better. So in that way, I talk about the walkability of a city. So that's one of my themes. So I've got 5 ideas here just quickly in the last 12 minutes probably now. And so I'll go through those. Some are new and some are old. But when it came to making a comment before, I was the one who said there was a bit of a gap between what we say and what we actually do. And so I think we've got great ideas, but we're not so good at implementation. Please don't take this as gospel. We just whipped this up the other day as a workshop, but when I say whipped it up around the table, it's my team of more than 100 years of planning experience there. So there's some knowledge behind it, but I've put it up here. The reason I've put this up is that we're having a big debate in this town about light rail right now. Should we or shouldn't we? And I've been out in the Canberra Times very much about encouraging the government to take the risk and take the step forward to put in one light rail somewhere, preferably from Civic to Gungahlin. The reason I've put this up here is that I do think we need to think more boldly. We need to move beyond should we, shouldn't we. We need to be looking at what should the whole transport system be, and could we actually have a much more integrated rail system. The only thing we've done in this region in the last 100 years is close a railway line. And that was the railway line that went from Canberra to Cooma to Bombala. There are now conversations happening. The first cruise ship came into Eden last week. They're hoping to build a new future around tourism in Eden with that. That's a really big thing for that town. And as part of that conversation, they're saying, well, how can we connect then to Canberra, connect to Cooma, connect to Tumut and all the agricultural areas? This is the big picture. And today we're talking about the second airport in Sydney in Badgerys Creek. Firstly, the conversation could start with one thing about light rail here along Northbourne Avenue. But I really want to encourage the government and the political leaders and the thought leaders in this town to think much more boldly and a much bigger picture in an integrated way. And what I've put up here, which is not just my work, it's our team that put this together the other day to promote discussion, is an integrated approach to rail in the region and from Sydney to Canberra to Melbourne. Connecting the very fast train, connecting regional rail, which we haven't even discussed, and then light rail within Canberra. And this is happening very much overseas, whether it's China, whether it's Europe, and now in the States. We need to have it happen in Australia much more. This is a personal view. The second idea that I'd like to share with you is about much more productive use of our open space. There's one thing we have in the national capital, it's open space. And in many cities, they're looking at community gardens. So I had my undergraduate students down by the lake the other day, and we ran a kind of ideas exercise. But one of the biggest ideas, apart from cleaning up the water quality, was in fact, instead of having a whole lot of people we pay to mow the grass every day, enormous cost to the taxpayers in this town, or the ratepayers in this town, then perhaps we should be using that land in a much more productive way. And that could be through urban farms, agriculture, flowers, gardens in that sense. And so that would absolutely transform the parliamentary triangle in itself if we did that. But that's such a bold idea. I know I can already see the letters in the Canberra Times opposing it. But it's just that I think we need to have much more vision and much more creativity, as Charles talks about, and vision about where we'd like to go. And sometimes it can be a winning solution for all parties. This is simply an example in Melbourne, Federation Square. They're doing a lot of this work in the city of Melbourne right now, in planting out gardens, and some neighbourhoods are starting to transform their nature strips and simply taking community action in Sydney as well, and putting in herb gardens, putting in fruit trees, and councils are having to adjust their laws to be able to respond to that. So they're acting locally and maybe leading to some more significant change. The third idea, and this relates to the light rail, but it's actually more about the cycling and active transport. And it comes back to the idea that I talked about, the walkability of a city. There's nothing like walking around a city to know whether it is walkable. And also for disability access and an ageing population being able to get around our city with comfort and ease. So I think in Canberra we have had a fantastic legacy with bike paths. My second car is an electric bike, not an electric car, and I absolutely love it. But in writing that, I've come to know our bike paths much more intimately than I would have otherwise. And whilst we've got a fantastic bicycle network, it has not been maintained. So I guess that's the other point. If we put these things in, we need to look after them, and we need to put aside recurrent budget, to maintain them to a quality that's safe and that people wish to use. The good thing about this slide is we can actually do all this together. You see, you've got light rail. We haven't chopped the trees down here, which people fear about Northbourne Avenue. The technology's moved beyond that. You don't even have to have overhead wires now with light rail. They can just simply operate with a battery and go to a platform, get the passengers on, the charger's underneath the platform, charges it up, then it goes to the next stop. So the technology is advancing enormously in that space, and can be very efficient with tiny little pods. Have one or two pods and no off peak, and then you add little pods to that to make a longer light rail. So there's the flexibility there as well. But we can also have a bike path running with it, and separation from cars. So we can do it if we pay attention to design. My next idea is that we actually need a town hall in this community. And walking over City Hill last night, the top of City Hill was broken glass, dark, no place you'd want to be on your own. We had a group of us, so that was fine, but certainly not a place you would choose to go. We could actually transform City Hill, but it doesn't have to be on City Hill. It was actually designed to be there in the first place, as a community place, a meeting place for discussion. And when you look at the views down to Parliament House from the top of City Hill and then back down Northbourne Avenue, you can understand, and there are other vistas as well, how a really well-designed, brilliantly designed place on top of City Hill could work extremely well for this town and bring the different parts of Civic together, unite Civic. And clearly this is on the Thames, it's the London Town Hall, but it's a sort of bold thinking in terms of design and architecture that I would be looking for a meeting place in this town. Not something we talked about symbols and cultural symbols before, museums, not something of old, something of new that is environmentally, brilliant in 8 stars, 9 stars, 10 stars, and shows the leadership of this national capital in that thinking for the rest of the country. But I do think it's time we had a town hall. There's actually no place here. You know, I went to the refugee rally on Sunday. There's no place in this town where we can congregate and debate and have these discussions. We've got the assembly with security doors, and that's about it. So we've got Pilgrim House, a church. You know, we've got the universities, but we haven't got a place that we can all come together. And I think that's about, someone mentioned the town being adolescent. I think we need this to grow up. It should be our 18th birthday present or something. That's right. And my fifth idea, well, this is not a new idea, but as chair of the Climate Change Council, there's no way I could give a talk here without talking about renewable energy. This town is investing in renewable energy. It is a leader amongst the other jurisdictions in Australia. Its investment in solar, its investment in working in the region in wind, I think is fantastic. And I think, but also the industry, and I rated the industry down, further down than others here, and that was because I was housing commissioner here some time ago, and I was trying to get really innovative public housing in Canberra, and I do find the industry is small. I think it is changing, but it's you know, there is room for more innovation, and I'm pretty sure the students here would be looking for that in the future, and we're suggesting that a little bit in their comments. And so this is China. This is, you know, people talk about what's happening in the world. Well, China's embracing solar in a very big way. And for Australia, you know, why wouldn't we? And why wouldn't this be a solar city? It does challenge some of this, hence my question before, it does challenge some of the existing industry in energy in this country, and it will challenge it. But my analogy is Lindsay Fox used to be in trucks, and then he realised he was in the transport industry, and he really prospered through that thinking. I think the same thing will happen in energy. Those who try to hang on to coal and industry the way it is will be a bit like, they will become stranded assets. Those who embrace the new energy of the future, and this town has that every opportunity to do that, will be the winners. And I could definitely see we'll be moving that way globally, and excuse me, Australia with that. So 5 ideas to think about. Some of them we're making progress on. Some we have talked about for 100 years and done nothing, like a town hall. So a bit of a mixture, but all of those up there, having been a director of planning, having been a housing commissioner, now in the university sector, worked in private practice, all of those are achievable in this town. So I do think we need strong leadership, and it'd be great to see some bipartisan action in this town as well. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Barbara, but don't go back yet.